The most misunderstood and often overlooked detail of Middle Eastern writing style is repetition. The main reason for this is that in the Western writing, we look down upon repetition. We do not like repetition. We do not like to repeat words or phrases. Do you remember taking English 101? And do you remember a teacher telling you, use synonyms? Do not repeat words? Repetition is ingrained in us as something bad or something inferior, something childish. But is it? So let's look more closely on your text and the repetition in your text. And don't forget to read. Read the text and pray. Even if you know it by memory by now, read it again. If I would have to pick one key to share with you and I would be limited to only one, I would pick repetition. It is one of the most important tools that the Middle Eastern writers, not only the Bible, they use it and still use it today to get their message across. And why do I stress this so much? Well, first of all, because for us Westerners, we do not look for repetition and we don't see repetition. And second, this is how the authors underline what is the most important. This is their highlighter, this is their bold letter and underlining. This is how they lead us through the story. This is actually very sophisticated, high-level writing, high-level literature style. Students are often surprised how much repetition there is in the stories they read before and never noticed how many words and phrases repeat over and over, even entire sentences, entire stories. So read your story and look at everything that repeats in your story. A little side note, how do you find the repetition? You can start with looking for simple words and you can use highlighters or colors, different colors. Step 1, look for words or phrases. Step 2, you can also look for contrasts, big and small, slow and fast. And please do not tell me that there is no repetition in your story. If you look at your story and you do not see any repetition, double check. Is it really the truth? And if you really, really must say there is no repetition, in that case, think about why. Why would an author repeat anything in your story when repetition is so important? There are about 2 or 3 stories in the Bible. They're very short and they do not repeat. They do not have a lot of repeated words or phrases. But again, it's very rare. So if you want to say that there is no repetition, make sure you double check and make sure that you are in a very short story. Here's an example. This is taken from John chapter 6, and I did not include the entire story, so do not think that this is the beginning and end of the story. I just picked a portion of the story. This is what it says. Therefore Jesus, lifting up his eyes and seeing that a large crowd was coming to him, said to Philip, "Where are we to buy bread so that these may eat?" This he was saying to test him, for he himself knew that he was intending to do. Philip answered him, 200 denarii worth of bread is not sufficient for these people. One of his disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, said to him, "There is a lad here who has 5 barley loaves and 2 fish. But what are these for so many people?" Jesus said, "Have the people sit down." Now there was much grass in the place, so the men sat down, in number about 5,000. Jesus then took the loaves, and having given thanks, he distributed to those who were seated. Likewise also the fish, as much as they wanted. When they were filled, he said to his disciples, "Gather up the leftover fragments, so that nothing will be lost." So they gathered them up and filled 12 baskets with fragments from the 5 barley loaves, which were left over by those who had eaten. Now, as you read this story, maybe you didn't see with your first reading how many words repeat. Now, if you pay close attention, you realize that there is a lot of words that repeat. And I picked just a few. This is not all the words that repeat. There is way, way more. For example, the large crowd. Now here, the large crowd doesn't repeat in word-for-word fashion. We have a large crowd. We have 100% denarii not sufficient. We have so many people. We have 5,000, right? So this would be repetition with variation. However, we have also repetition of exactly the same word. Sit, sit, sit. It is repeated 3 times. For some reason, the author underlined the fact that people are not standing, they're not walking. This is not a drive-through. People are sitting down. And then we have a contrast. There is very little, not sufficient, and at the end, people are filled. We have leftovers, right? So there is a repetition with variation, there is a repetition with synonyms, and there is a repetition of exact words, and you will most likely have all of the above. So now it's your turn. Read your story, look at the words and phrases that repeat, and think, why would the author repeat those particular words, those phrases? What is he trying to tell you? Why is he underlining those words? For the assignment, you will have to answer 2 questions. First, provide a list of all the words or scenes that are repeated in the text. Choose 2 or 3 words or scenes and give their significance. In other words, ask the question, so what? Why do they repeat? Why would the author want to point these words by repeating them?